everybody, it's Miss Amy from the Free Library of Springfield Township, and for our science experiment today we are going to play a melting snowman Oobleck game. So what you will need in terms of ingredients is cornstarch. We're going to use 2 cups of cornstarch. You're going to need a bowl to mix the Oobleck in, a spoon, and you're going to need some measuring cups and water. So I already put 1 cup of warm water in the bowl for us. So that's all going to be used to make our Oobleck. Then when we do the melting snowman game part, you're going to need a plate, and you're going to want some decorations for your snowman face. So I've got some cut up pieces of straw for arms, I've got some little foam pieces, I've got pennies, you can use buttons, whatever, beads, whatever other decoration supplies you have at home. So Oobleck, if you've never made it before, is a non-Newtonian fluid. So that means that it breaks a rule about how we would normally expect fluids to act. So, you know, we have things that are solids, right? Like this plate. It's solid, so it's different. We have things that are liquid, like water. We know how that moves, right? So, different liquids also have different resistance levels when they're flowing. So water flows very easily, right? This term is referred to as viscosity, but think about honey or the syrup you put on your pancakes sometimes. When you're trying to pour that, it can take a lot longer to flow out of the jar or the container than water can. So that's because it has a different level of viscosity to it. So one of Newton's laws was that you can change the temperature of something and that can change its viscosity. So think about honey. If you heat honey up, it will sometimes flow easier, more like water. But this Newton's law also said, but when you apply force or pressure to the fluid, it won't change the viscosity. Now that is the law that the Oobleck is going to break, which is why we call it a non-Newtonian fluid. So what we're going to do, we have our 1 cup of warm water in the bowl, and then we're going to add 2 cups of cornstarch. I knew this was going to be messy. This is a messy experiment, everybody. I might use the spoon to help me get some out here. And now we're just using regular cornstarch. You can, if you want to change some variables for this experiment, you can try different types of powders. So you could use potato starch or baking soda, flour even. Now you might have to experiment a little bit with the ratio of cups to water to see how that goes. But that is something that you can try to see if your Oobleck will act any differently than what ours is doing. So just gotta get all this cornstarch in. And then we're gonna mix it up. All right. Ooh, it's already starting to do its thing. The first cup that I put in there. So it can be a little tough to mix because, as we said, it's going to break that rule where we would expect the pressure to not affect it. But what happens with this Oobleck is pressure does affect it. So, and I'll show you once we get a pretty good mix here going, that if we leave it alone, if we don't put any pressure on it, it's going to act more like a liquid and be a little more runny. And if we put some pressure on it, it's going to act more like a solid. And so other liquids, you know, we wouldn't expect them to act that way. And again, that's why it's a non-Newtonian fluid. All right, I think I got a pretty good example here. So as you guys can see, if I just let it go like that, I'm not touching it with the spoon anymore, it's running pretty much like a liquid. But once I kind of put some pressure on it or glop it with the spoon, it starts to, and you guys, when you try this at home, you can put your fingers in if you want, and it starts to become a little more solid-like. So now what we're gonna do is play the melting snowman part of this game. So you gotta have your decorations ready. And what you're gonna do is go ahead and grab some of your Oobleck and squeeze it together. As you can see, when I'm squeezing it together, it's a little bit more like a solid. But you have to keep that pressure on for it to stay a solid. Otherwise, woo, I'll show you. It's just gonna go back into liquid form, right? So the game part is, can you keep it in solid form long enough to get all your decorations on, and then you're gonna let it melt onto the plate. It's really hard. All right, trying to get enough Oobleck in my hands for it to work. Oh my goodness, you guys, this is really messy, but fun. Okay, I'm just gonna try it with this. It's gonna be a really small snowman head because it's hard to get it up. All right, so I'm gonna keep rolling it around so that it doesn't get all liquidy on me. And I got my snowman eyes. Oh my gosh, the snowman eye got buried in there. And the nose. You might want to do this with a partner so someone can put the things on as you're going. All right, I'm just gonna show you the melting part. So then when you've got it, your snowman, you just let go and it melts onto the plate. Where are his eyes? Stuck in there. All right, so that's what you do. And once you put pressure on it, it becomes more like a solid again. So you can play around with that and see, you know, maybe it takes a couple people somebody to get it to be all solid, somebody else to put decorations on, but then once you let go, it'll go back into liquid format. All right, so that is Oobleck. So as you can see, you can play around with it, have it become solid. When you let it go, back to a liquid. So as we've learned, sometimes act like a solid, sometimes act like a liquid. What's actually happening is when we put the pressure on, the particles of cornstarch are actually suspended in the water. So when you put the pressure on, it's almost like we're squeezing the water out, and the particles are getting, microscopic particles are getting closer together. And then when we let go, there's more space between the particles and they run all apart again. So the important thing about this being a suspension is the cornstarch is not dissolving in the water. So you do not want to put your Oobleck down the drain. Very important, because what happens is when it does fully the water evaporates and it gets dried out, all that cornstarch, it can clog pipes. So definitely do not dispose of your Oobleck by putting it down the drain. You just need to throw it away in the trash can. All right? So that is our science experiment for today. Thank you for joining us, and we'll see you next time. Bye.